Hello, I'm Nurhan Yusupov, and it's an episode of Leaders and Engineers. We're broadcasting from Estonia today. Today, our guest is an expert in industrial automation, Bachelor of Applied Science in Product Development, and Master of Science in Mechatronics, Robotics and Automation Engineering, with more than 13 years of experience in mechanics and developing industrial automation solutions. He worked in such companies as Stoneridge, where he delivered solutions for Volvo, Scania, MAN, and Daimler. He's living now in Estonia, and where he founded, together with his partner, a company called Hope, which is doing factory automation and machine building. Please meet Priit Raid.
Hello.
Hello. So how do you do?
It was nice to hear your preparation story about me. So doing good.
Was it true, correct?
You have done an excellent job.
Well, I must admit that your LinkedIn is also very well written and very concise to the point. So that was really making it easy for me to compile. But also
some marketing consultants, so they advised to do it. So it's a good hint.
I actually noticed that in LinkedIn you're quite active, and from the whole page and you personally. But this is really great to see.
Yeah, we are using different types of marketing channels, and LinkedIn is one of them. It has worked quite well for us, so I think if you see that something is working, then go for it.
I personally agree with you. Compared to other social networks, LinkedIn is straight to the professional business environment setup. So it's like more probably suitable for this kind of interactions.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a network already, then you have to keep your followers you have to be active and show that you're still there and doing automation and machine building. And sometimes you also find new contacts. So it's, I think for us, it's quite a good, since we are only doing B2B business, for us, it's a good channel.
Awesome. You told me you participated once in the radio, and but probably what I'm going to propose you would be something a bit unique and different.
Okay.
In this podcast, one of the formats that we try is the mock-up of the job interview. Okay. So basically what it means is that we imagine that you apply for a leadership position in an engineering company. Mm-hmm. The company doesn't exist, the product doesn't exist, but the format then is like job interview that you apply there for leadership position and leadership for engineering. So there is engineering department. And then I will say that the interview is over, job interview is over, and ask your feedback. Was it similar to your previous experience? How did you feel? And that way, basically, the people who are listening, watching us, they will get to know your view on different topics, but also they will see the flow of these job interviews, especially those aspiring engineers.
Okay. So it's good that I didn't listen to any of your previous episodes, because otherwise I would have prepared. So let's go.
Well, every time there are different cases and companies, but still, yeah, it would be more authentic in that sense.
Yeah, sure.
So, are you ready?
Yeah.
Right. So, hello, Priit. Thank you for applying for a position in our company. And to talk about our company, this position is in the industrial automation department, which you will be heading if we basically make this conclusion after this interview. But to talk about our company is producing massage device. So it's called Massage Me, and basically your partner can do. You put up this kind of on top of you, this device, and then your partner does this massage while playing the game. So there is a screen attached, and your partner can basically, I don't know if you imagine the joysticks, trying to push the buttons on your back at the same time trying to beat the enemies.
Okay.
And you will see this on your screens. I will show to Priit how it looks like. So basically, he's doing the massage, and then there is a video game.
Okay.
And by pressing, he's beating in this game other opponents.
Okay. Looks interesting.
So my first question would be, why have you decided to apply for this position?
I think I have quite good skills to be the automation engineering lead, since I have background and skills in this field for quite a while.
Have you personally tried yourself this kind of massage devices? Do you use them?
Well, usually I don't use massage machine, but I have quite a lot of experience with different types of massage. Since I'm like a hobby athlete, I go to the regular massage quite often, like perhaps after every second week. So I know how a good massage should feel like. So I think I could be like quite a good developer, and also heading the development for that product.
Great to hear that. But I would like to know more about your background, your experience. And you founded the company and you called it Hope. Could you please tell why you did your name with this name? I didn't choose Hope.
Yeah, I think it's a good story to tell, because me as one of the founder and Tanel, we both studied mechanics. And the word hope in Estonian, it's like a mechanical term that means lever. So when you're trying to lift things up from ground or bring them higher, then you need a lever. And that's why we thought that it's a cool name for a company that is helping other companies to let's say, get higher in terms of automation. Let's say that we lift them up.
Really cool idea with the name, and it's directly connected with the kind of philosophy of the brand, with the motto.
Yes.
And I could also see in your logo, it's also this lever ingrained.
So that's the idea, that we help customers to get higher.
Awesome. But this was about the name, but overall, how did you arrive to the idea of making such company?
I think it was from our own experience. Me and Tanel, we used to work, as said, in automotive business, and we were designers. And we were actually designing the product, not the production line. And we saw that even if we as designers made a good job and the product was good, then you still, in order to make this final result good, you need to have a good assembly line. And once you start ramping up production, usually there is a bottleneck when things are not working as they should be. And from our own experience, we saw that, hey, we could do much better in terms of like designing and making those machines. And Tanel had been actually working for a company making Nokia production lines earlier. So he already had the experience from there. And then, we took the decision that we can always go back to the regular work and be an employee if things go bad. So we tried to, make this decision like step by step. And I took off from my regular work as first, and then Tanel joined me after half a year or so. In 2000. We started Hope in 2014. So
did you change? So did you leave your previous work straight away with creation of Hope? It was kind of side activity in the beginning?
It was side activity, but it was for a very short period, because I quickly understood that if you want to fly, then you need full attention, like focus. If no focus, then you won't fly. So it's hard to do two jobs at the same time.
but looks like it was the debut was successful. So from beginning you already.
Yeah, I mean, my score is like 1 out of 1, so one company and one has succeeded. So far so good. No bankruptcies.
You're talking as a serial entrepreneur. Do you have in mind to like set up other companies as well?
I mean, I still think that I'm young, so yes, for sure. I think that it will not be my only company because like I have done this since 2014 and maybe I'm still like young and thinking about too many things, but right now I see that I might have like new startings as a like startings in terms of companies. And when I get this feeling that, oh, I should start something new, I always think about one meeting I had with in Asia. It was in Malaysia, and it was a Japanese company, and I was a customer there, and the supplier met me, and I was still a relatively young engineer there, and there were like 3 guys sitting next to me. And when I asked, how long have you been working here? And the first guy said that, well, I'm here the youngest. I'm really like a rookie, only 15 years. And the other guy said that, yeah, it's like 25 for me. And the third one even had more on the belt. And every time I get this feeling that I should start something new, I think about these guys. So then I calm down and think that, okay, there is still like new things I can do in home and learn and grow. So, okay, just a little side story.
But very interesting, actually. But in Malaysia, how did you end up in Malaysia?
In the automotive business, you have suppliers in different parts of the world. And in Stoneridge, I was also working as a procurement manager. So I was responsible for some projects, and I had the opportunity to work with suppliers globally.
For me, it's when you say Malaysia, it's quite brings me to my experience, because I used to live in Malaysia. I used to study and been there a lot. That's why I'm so interested, especially in that. But you also just now mentioned that you were procurement manager and dealing with this plastic sourcing.
Yes.
And why did you switch before you were engineer, developer, design mechanics? What kind of happened or inspired you or triggered this kind of change?
I think it was like a bit of luck and coincidence. I mean, I had been mechanical engineer for 5 years, and I felt that, I might want some change. And since the work, let's say, the duties I had there, they were much related to leading the project with a supplier. It was like tightly related to like specific supplier work, and it was like evolved into this that if the position came, I applied, they chose me. It was a very good experience. I mean, I started as an engineer, then I got to look into the financial side and how the business works. It was, I think it was a great experience. It's, as an engineer, it's a little bit annoying to talk about money all the time, but if you get used to it, then it's fine.
But do you think if you didn't have this change in the position, you wouldn't end up creating Hope?
I think the idea to become an entrepreneur has been in my head for a long time, because my parents are both entrepreneurs. And I think it was like, I knew that one day I will also be an entrepreneur, either it's related to engineering or something else, but I think that even if the procurement position wouldn't have happened, then still I would be here.
You mentioned about your parents. Were they advising when you were creating Hope, or how involved?
If I asked them, they would sure advise, but it's not that it was like they were pushing me. It was my own intent, I think. But I think if you have this, like, let's say this, if you see, like, if you're a small boy and if you see your father doing it, then doesn't look so bad, then you think that, what can happen? I think it's easier to cross this border from, let's say, like monthly salary work to become an entrepreneur if you have someone in the family doing it. So,
well, some kind of role model in this case.
Yeah, I mean that it's to survive, you need quite, let's say, little money and little things. So it's more about what is the possibilities to grow. It's not that if you think about only the things that can happen and go wrong, you will never get there. So it's
all right. Let me check quickly. How was it on the other side? Yep, it looks good. Great. And if you move back to your time when maybe, I don't know, in school, how did you decided that you will become engineer and you will go this way?
I had an older brother who studied also mechanics. I think it was like let's say, he was leading the way a little bit. I had two options, either to go into software or mechanics, but since I was repairing a lot of motorbikes when I was small and doing different things with like that included motors and then driving stuff, so the mechanics was quite a simple decision for me.
Are you still dealing with motorbikes? Is it your hobby? Or?
Yeah, that's the amateur sport I'm doing. So that's my regular training.
So in that sense, you were either destined to become engineer or motorbike racer.
Yeah, I mean, the sports have been in my life since I was, I think, 6 or 7 years old. So going like training regularly, like every week and almost every day. So I used to play basketball, and the motorbike thing has always been like a side hobby. So preparing them, building them, riding with them. So I think it's also what I do here, a little bit.
Do you see a lot of similarities between these different kind of systems? I mean, let's say, I mean, if you develop the hydraulics, mechanics, can you, with the same set of skills, develop automation solution for pick and place, for instance?
There are some similarities, but I mean, doing something with your own hands, something like simple mechanics and designing some complex system in a CAD system, they're quite different, let's say, approaches. Even if the end result is a little bit similar, but the approach and how you look at the system is it's quite a bit different. Yeah, but still, I mean, when we started Hope, we didn't have any assembly operators, so we were building machines on our own. So actually, me and Tanel, we have done all the production work ourselves, also the design, sourcing. So basically, we have the basic skills in every discipline. In that sense, we could still do it. If things go bad and it's only two of us, Hope will still manage. So it was a joke, I think.
Well, hopefully everything goes. You're already expanding, so you're on the right track.
Yeah, I think that we don't need to prove our business model anymore. It's almost 10 years, so I think that it has proven that we have customers who see the value. Yeah.
Speaking about the customers, can you give example where you had a very difficult customer and how you handled?
I think no customer is like difficult. It's that things go difficult if they don't know what they want. I mean, no one is like, no one wants to be difficult as from the beginning. It's when you have big companies, they have many departments, they have many stakeholders, everyone wants to get their own parts. So it's then it's the procurement comes with the pricing, then it's the engineering, and the project manager comes with the timing. So then it's difficult, and we have to be like the one, let's say, we have to respond to all of these wishes. Sometimes it's like a letter to the Santa Claus, but we have to be polite and say that all things are not possible at the same time. But so far, I think we haven't had any customers who walk away being very disappointed. So I think we have managed to keep them happy.
Great to hear that. But coming back to the mechanics, I saw you have lots of certification with the PTC Creo.
Yes.
Is it your preferred CAD tool?
In Hope, we use SolidWorks. So I have been working with PTC and SolidWorks both. Both are good tools, and I can handle them both. But in Hope, yeah, we use SolidWorks.
But if you compare those different tools, like this Solid Edge, SolidWorks, and this Inventor, Creo, what's the biggest difference between those?
Good question. I could give you many answers. I think they are intended to different business sizes. If we talk about like designing CAD software to do a job, Solid Edge, I think is for the smallest companies, and then the list grows with the SolidWorks and the Inventor and Creo, and the bigger the name, bigger the company is suited for. They can all do the work, let's say, on some level. If things go really tricky and big, then some handle it better than the others. Also the pricing, training, there are different costs related. And why we chose SolidWorks is that we have to look at the engineering pool that we have in Estonia. So if we want to build our own team, they need to be familiar with the tools. And in Estonia, SolidWorks is let's say the most popular. So it's the easiest to come abroad, so to say, and have a tool that most of the engineers can handle.
But so far, this were more like social reasons or the popularity. But if you speak about functionality, which one would you prefer, personally?
Depends what is the end product. I mean, if we have to design some automotive part that has a lot of 3D surfaces like dashboard stuff, some buttons, and a lot of injection molded parts, I think maybe the Creo or the PTC product is the best one. If we would need to make a lot of drawings and we are not working so much with 3D surfaces, I think SolidWorks is my favorite for that job that we are doing here. But it depends on the industry. What is the assembly size and what is the amount of 2D prints you do? And for example, in PTC, the 3D modeling part is, I would say, quite strong compared to the other tools you mentioned. So I think that there are many answers to your question. But I think for us, the SolidWorks is the best match in terms of how big we are, what is the PDM tool related to it, and what is the cost, and also let's say, the skills in Estonia to handle this tool.
Speaking about if you continue with prototyping and this 3D printing, first of all, do you use this, and how much experience you had, and how do you see the future with for the industrial automation with 3D printing?
We use it a lot, especially on components that you can't machine, that have a very complex shape, or maybe you had to make three CNC parts instead of one printed. I think there is a lot of potential It's not only the, let's say, the manufacturability, but it's also the cost and the speed of making things. So we use it a lot, but as I see that we will be using it even more. Currently, we mainly use it in, let's say, in cases where the plastic parts are too complex to machine or there are very thin walls. But I think that in a few years we will be using also instead of metal CNC parts.
It's actually indeed what you mentioned, the question about the size, the scale, and right now you have custom-made solutions. Probably this makes it really more attractive. But you also mentioned that recently Hope launched a standardized offering, this pallet solution. Are you planning to utilize this also there? And are you planning also to get more of the standardized solutions?
Well, on this standardized solution, there are mainly metal parts, and it's relatively, let's say, low-cost product in terms of material cost. It's quite simple. So I think that we won't be using it there, but if we have more complex products, robotics, it's more, let's say, in the areas where the material cost is perhaps not an issue. It's more the speed and the function. Yeah. And also the visual aspect is important. With 3D printed parts, you can create different shapes that are very hard to achieve on machine parts. So if you have some curves and like shapes, some spheres and stuff, then things go very tricky with machining.
So for this massage me device that you put on the person, would you use the 3D printing?
For prototypes, yes. But if we talk about serial production, then I think it's injection molded parts. Yeah. Because still the printed parts are quite expensive if you go into series. And of course, when we launch this massage machine, we will conquer the world and make like millions of it. So we need injection molded parts that are really cost effective.
If we talk about also the kind of other technologies, now there is a lot of talk about the AI and this ChatGPT. Have you tried this ChatGPT?
Yes.
How do you think it might change the design process in the industrial automation?
Perhaps for some more simple software blocks, it could be used, but still you need to check it and you need to validate the function. In hardware design, if you could convert the hardware design into text, perhaps in that case, and vice versa. But right now, it's hard for me to imagine, but I think that the software guys could handle it. Let's say the translation from text to physical things. But yeah, the question is that if you're making, let's say, do you want to travel in an elevator that has been designed by AI? If you're on, let's say, 10th floor and there is nothing under you, it's a question that someone, like a person, still has to check it. I think it's the same story that if, like, AI could fly a plane, but do you want to be in that plane? That's the question.
I think this is connected with another term, which was another area which was coming with Industry 4.0, this digital twins. How much you had experience with that one? How do you see this area is progressing?
Well, digital twin, I think that personally, I haven't seen any digital twins that are working perfectly. It depends on the information that you put in. That's what you get out. So in that sense, it takes a lot of effort to make it work. in a way that it will enhance your production.
Mm-hmm.
And only, let's say, only a very few there are very few companies who can afford that, to have this good digital twin. If it's if someone tells me that he has a perfect digital twin of his factory, I want to see it. That's my experience. I don't know. How about you?
Well, same, because this is always the question of how many sensors and how much data you can get from the machine, and looks like it's still kind of challenge.
Yeah, I think that you have to look at the things that why we do it. We want to have some metrics. We want to have some KPIs, and I think the information that help you to achieve these KPIs, that's important. But everything else that people put into the digital twin, the information might not be that useful. I think if you look at your, like as a factory, if you look at your Six Sigma and Lean, let's say, methods, that's the right way to look. Just to make a digital twin on its own, just to have it, it's not much worth, in my opinion.
Well, we will see how it goes further, because now there's already discussion about Industry 5.0. Looks like we, in some areas, someone maybe already achieved this full Industry 4.0.
Mm-hmm.
But in the same way, how do you see with the AR? Have you tried this AR in production? So let's say you look at your machine and it shows you all the data location of sensors.
Not really. Let's say still our production volumes for machines, if you make, let's say, as we do, let's say between 1 to 50 units, the effort that you would have to put in to get it working, it would be, let's say, it's too big to see the gain. If we would do, let's say, 5,000 machines or 50,000 machines, then I think that we could perhaps look into that. I think that if we talk about Industry 4.0, in my opinion, what I would like to see is that a lot of people discuss, and it's a lot of marketing, and people use the word in a way I think it shouldn't be used. It's a lot of, it's basically in every marketing text you find it. Sometimes I try to think it more simple. So if I press a button in Amazon.com, buy the product, this information should be converted into some order at some company, and then another order at the supplier, and it should land on a CNC machine that starts to make this product. That is Industry 4.0 for me. Everything should be connected, and if I press the button, then it should be like manufactured. So the link between the end customer and the producer, I think that is important. In that way, we can have this, let's say, high mix, low volume production efficiently. If we have this, let's say, big batch production and we have a lot of warehouses, that's, I think, what we should eliminate with Industry 4.0. That is how I see it.
Well, probably this is maybe not the only use case, but I agree with you that it would be really improving for the user, and basically it will be improving for the manufacturers as well, the flow, and but of course it's for that to achieve, it needs to be kind of standardization maybe.
Yes, and it's a lot of supply chain automation that has to happen, and it's nice to have and say that all our CNC machines are in one network in our workshop, but that doesn't really help. I mean, you have to look at how the supply chain works and how you can actually improve the process of delivering the product from the raw material to the end customer. And what happens in between? It's a lot of things that the industry for, let's say, should do, and people use the word, but I think that most of the content is still has been already developed in the 70s, but it's just that we are not, let's say, we are not using even the things that were developed in 70s in our factories nowadays. There is so much with that we can develop and do, even without the 4.0. It can be 3.0 or 2.0, I think, in my opinion. Let's say, at least in most of the factories.
I agree with you. And technology-wise, as you said, this is not something very new, and it's all feasible. It's probably more question on the bureaucracy, on the agreements, on this kind of alignments. But moving from technology, I actually would like to hear your opinion on this scenarios when it comes to leadership. Let's imagine the situation that you're funding your company, and it's in the tourism sector in the United States and Canada, and you're bringing tourists to Mexico. And you basically found a partner who is from Mexico, but also have citizenship of Canada and also good in accounting, and you see that for you it will be a big help, because you don't want to really deal with this accounting, you're not so good in that one, and you trust your partner, you setting up the business. But then one day comes your partner and says that, we need, there is a tax in Mexico that needs to be paid per each person, but let me handle this, it needs to be done with the cash, and it will be like easy if we make this reporting. This somehow doesn't make sense to you, but you trust your partner and you say it's fine, it's okay. And then after several months, you check your papers and you see that there was supposed to be 30 tourists going in the group, but actually on the paper it's 20. And you think the tax was not paid for all of them, and now you start being suspicious.
Okay.
How will you handle this situation? What will you say to your partner?
Well, I think that first of all, I would, perhaps it's just like a human error that can always happen. So before I do anything, I would like to check, was it a human error, or was it an intention to, let's say, to make it look like this. If it wasn't a human error, then, and if it was intentionally trying to, let's say, fool me, then I think it's quite clear that he doesn't trust me, and there is no partnership. I think that trust is quite important. If you don't have the trust, then it's not much you can do.
But let's say you see this situation, and then how would you start this conversation? Maybe you can imagine that I'm that kind of partner.
I try to be quite simple. I just say that, hey, I see these numbers and they don't match. What's up with them? And if there is no reasonable explanation, then I say that, well, it looks like you tried me, let's say, pull me off, and it's the end of the story. I tried to think in a way that that's his problem. It's not my problem. So I don't want to take this stress on me and try to end it as soon as possible.
But let me add twist to this story. While you got this mismatch in the paper and you start talking to your partner, you got the letter from the Mexican government saying that they spotted wrongdoings and they will put a big fine, and your existence of your business now is actually under question, whether you can get the license and work there. Now, how will you respond to the Mexican government, and how will your response change to your partner?
In terms of trust, I think the response is still the same. It doesn't matter what the government say. But if we have to deal with the consequences, then I think it comes down to the, let's say, to the laws and to the lawyers, to how we should deal with them. If the partner wants to, let's say, take off with money and leave me without any of it, so it's a matter of lawyers. It's not that I'm someone like fighting with my hands to the guy. I think that if someone wants to be bad, it's his problem, not mine. So I would more choose the way that I start up with something new and bright, and I want to leave the let's say the bad atmosphere as soon as possible. If I dig into it and stress myself about it too much, I think it will be, at the end of the day, it will be worse. So even if I lose some money, I would accept that, walk away, start something new as soon as possible, and try to find better partners with me, maybe.
All right. The case that I have provided you, this is actually from the Ted Rogers Leadership Center in the United States. And but another question that now, not this case, but more question about your perspective. Do you think in the company, your company that you're running, or your department, this engineering department that you're applying, there should be only A players, or it's okay to have B players?
It depends on the business model, and it also depends on the industry you're in. If you are high-end consultant company and you have 5 employees, you need A players, A+ players maybe. If you are, let's say, mid-size production company with 500 employees, they can't all be A players. So it comes down to the, let's say, the business that you're doing, and what is the value that you want to give to the customer. Is the value that's the concept and the function, or is the value volume of the products? So it depends.
Do you think that you work in a big company, basically a huge corporation, and now you founded a company which is much smaller than that? If you look at the composition, do you think that that company could afford to have lots of B and C players, and was like mixed there? And in your company, you have more like A players.
I think that if you're a small company but you want to make a large footprint, you need A players. You don't have any other possibility. If you're small and you have B players, then you're nothing. I mean, your footprint is much smaller. So, and also, it's a lot related to, let's say, what is I mean, every company has its own development phase. I mean, in the beginning, you need more A players. If you have been existing already for 50 years, you need less A players. I mean, it's also the background you have, the product portfolio you have. If your products are ready, you don't change them and they sell for themselves. You don't need the A players that much. So it depends on many things. I mean, if you want to make new things, and if you want to work with big players, much bigger than yourself, then you don't have any other options to have A players.
But let's say candidates, they applying to the engineering job positions that you have opened in let's say it's engineering department that you're opening. They are graduates, students. Will you consider, let's say you want to put up A players, will you consider those applications even from students? Or you would rather straight away put, I don't know, 10 years of experience?
Well, we consider, but there has to be some kind of, let's say, we need to see the sparks. The candidate has to come up with something that is, let's say, brings our attention. Either he is really like stubborn, he writes us many times, and he's willing to come to work just to see what we do, and so he has to have some sort of a motivation, not only talk about the, let's say, size of the salary or what kind of good will he or she get. So we also see, let's say, if you hire someone, maybe he's a B or C player now, but A+ player in 5 years. So it's, if you build a team, you have some senior guys, you have some junior guys. It has to be like a good mix. So we have a lot of young guys who have become A players over the years, and it's really nice to see their personal development. But there has to be some sort of like some sort of motivation or spark or some crazy wish or something that he's really interested in this field. If it's there, he has the skills and he's ready to learn, then I think that we will consider, and we have considered so far. So.
But you mentioned about this spark motivation. So I understood this is kind of self-motivation, that the person is already coming with that things. But could it be that you got such a person, and then person is like A player, but then after several months, person starts performing as a B or C player? How will you address this kind of challenge?
I mean, there is always a reason. There's something wrong, either something is in his personal life, something with a job, tasks, the projects that he has, something with a team or the workmates. So we try to see what's the problem and ask if we can solve it. If we can't solve the problem, then our, let's say, motto or saying is that if you want to work, then let's work. But if you don't want to work, let's not work. So if there is no will from both sides, then let's just end the deal and go on. We have let's give the opportunity to some other young engineer or senior engineer who wants to do the work. So I think it's we try to find the source of the problem, because there is always there are like every person has a family, pets, kids. It's not always related to work. It can be something else. So before we take any actions, we try to find out the root cause.
But could you please like kind of give example? And I don't know, is it you rather be brutal honest straight away, cutting, or you will actually take a lot of time to soften your message?
I mean, I think we have always tried to address it before we make the cut, so to say, or but I think that if there have already been 2 warnings, I think there is no point to give the 3rd one. If the message is not received, then it will harm the other colleagues and the environment if the one person is not let's say, performing as expected. In that sense, I try to, at least for me, it's easier to cut it sooner than later. It's better for me and better for the worker. So maybe it's related to me, but I think that life is too short to work at the wrong place.
But let's say it's not kind of this situation where it's so bad, but in principle, in general, how would you what do you think? Do you need to motivate to do something, or you think that the work itself is so engaging and interesting, you don't need to do anything?
Yeah, I think that you can motivate with other things up to a certain, let's say, point. You can have like ping pong tables and PlayStation and a lot of food and beer, but I mean, it's hard to be motivated on all these things for more than a year. If your like daily work is boring, it's not much you can do.
But let's maybe put it like in a different light. You have a player, you are super happy, this awesome specialist, and but that person is coming and tells you that wants to leave. How would you apply effort to retain, or you say, okay, if you want to leave, then just leave?
Of course, we try to, let's say, find a solution, but sometimes it's not only his fault. Maybe if there are no interesting challenges for this A player, it's maybe the employer has failed.
Maybe just a bit one correction. Maybe in the setup, if you are the engineering manager in this imaginary company,
okay,
let's not connect.
Okay. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Let's play the game. Yeah, I think that, as I said, this beer and PlayStation will only motivate up to some level, though I think that to have these interesting work tasks, that's, I think, the biggest motivation. So you need to have every team member should have personal development and should feel the challenge, but also should feel the responsibility. I think that I think the person must see that he can change something, like with the work that he's doing. If I would be in this manager position and if I don't have any tools to give him such tasks, then it's not much I can do. I can only tell that try to survive for 1 year, and maybe after 1 year there will be some new challenges, but if not, then I think I wouldn't lie and say that just please stay for the beer and the PlayStation. I would be honest, I think, and to say that if there is no, let's say, nothing new and interesting and suitable coming from the A player, then I would be honest, I think. And I have had managers who have been honest, and I really respect that. So I try to be the same.
Great. And the last question of this job interview is, what's your salary expectation?
My salary expectation, maybe more than right now.
How much is that?
As an entrepreneur, it's very hard to tell. It's quite small, so it's I survive. I have a family, and I'm not starving, and yeah, I have my home is not cold, so in that sense it's sufficient. But we are, let's say, quite modest in that sense.
All right, so we're done with the job interview.
Okay.
Now, the question for the time for the feedback. How did you feel? How did it go?
I think it was okay. Maybe I didn't get the game so well, but I should have maybe have listened to your previous podcast, so to play in a better way a little bit.
I think it was quite good.
Okay.
And of course, we understand this imaginary company, but some questions maybe not so much as like job interview. They could be also, but there is kind of overlap. Was it similar to your previous experience when you had job interviews? I mean, when you were hired and when you were hiring?
The job interviews that I have done, a little bit similar. Maybe they're shorter. So I think the normal interview is, the first round is 15 minutes, second one is half an hour, and the third one is 1 hour, I think. That's, let's say, our steps. So we try to get to the bottom very quickly.
But you have 3 stages, basically.
Yes. Okay. So the first one is just to get a glimpse of what is the person, and it's over Teams. The second one is on site, and the third one, that's the decision-making meeting, let's say, with more, with also other team members. I think that my previous job interviews have been quite weird and fast, so I don't have much to compare with. I can only tell about the interviews that I have done, and in that sense, at least our goal with every person is try to understand his story, like why he wants to do it. If the why question is answered, then I think it's problem, like the goal of the interview is solved. If we can't figure out why he's doing it, then I think it's, or something is doesn't feel logic, then I think we have something to think of. Why is it so, and so on.
Gotcha. And the person who is watching us right now, there are different people, different profiles of people, but let's say the person who is watching us is aspiring engineer, starting the career, maybe just graduated from the university. What advice will we give to that person?
I think that young engineers should find or work in companies that are a little bit bigger than normal. So they get an understanding of how bigger companies work, what are different disciplines, departments, how development, production works, what is like finance, procurement, and also try to be on both sides. Be on the little bit on the mechanical side, maybe a little bit on the software side, be on the development side and also production side. Maybe testing is good to get and also if you look at like one product, then be on the product design side, but also try to be on the customer side. What functionalities must be there. So that's why I chose Mechatronics. So you have this mix of different things, and maybe you get an understanding of the industry, but also of the products a little bit better. So if possible, go abroad. I studied in Germany for 1 year, and I loved it. I think it was a very good experience. If you have the possibility, go and work as a consultant. Imagine that you would be, let's say, if you're a young engineer, you get 1 year in one company, you have one experience. If you're in a consultant company, you will be, let's say, maybe in 5 companies with 1 year, and think of the different experience you get. It's very good in your CV to have this experience when you're young. So I think gain as much as experience as you get from as big companies as you can. So. And then later on, you have a lot of, let's say, you are already so wise to make the decisions on yourself, which company to choose.
Or found your own.
Yes. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. And that was Priit Raid in the episode of Leaders and Engineers. Thank you for watching and listening us.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.